Guys, we're in BFA launch. It's only been out for a few days and we're already 120. We've already done a lot, and I want to share, a follow-up to my other video, which was about preparing for BFA, preparing to level to 120. And now that we're there, looking back, I want to give you guys some tips and tricks because maybe you guys couldn't do the 18 hours of questing and leveling and great times that I've been able to do. But let me kind of walk you through the top 5 things I wish I knew and kind of things to plan on for leveling in BFA. And I'll kind of give it from a hardcore push perspective and also a casual perspective. Now, I started my whole journey in BFA as saying, I'm not going to go hot and sweaty. I'm going to just enjoy it. I'm going to play a lot of it because I took off time for work, but I don't want to just push, intense, which, I know that people definitely are interested in that. I definitely went for the take it easy. Let's just quest, let's herb, let's fish, let's do archaeology, let's do all those little things. Now, that's my style, and if your style is to go fast, I'm going to kind of break it down that way, but I definitely tried to soak in the experience. I turned the ambiance up, I took their music up. It definitely adds to the experience of BFA. Number 5, consumables. Now, in my prep for BFA video, which is down in the description below, I said, get all these things for consumables. There was really only a few things that I think are absolutely critical if you want to, this is for smoothness of leveling and even speed for leveling. Yeah, and it's even for the casual guy to just get from point A to point B faster. If you're Horde, I can't speak for the Alliance because I haven't done that side yet. But for Horde, Goblin Gliders were the single most useful thing I have used during questing. You could get from point A to point B anywhere because of how vertical each of the different maps are. So definitely stock up on those. Even if you're 115 right now, definitely stock up on those. 2, legendaries. Make sure your legendaries are equipped. They were extremely valuable. They only work until 115. At 116, they stop working. I used the trinket, which was the unused DPS trinket. That is off global cooldown and is a huge AoE. So that, with my AoE Elemental Shaman build, was incredible. And if you guys want to know about the build, put a comment down below. I'll give you the build. Now, the other things, in terms of consumables, I did use some of the banners sometimes. I didn't quite push that too much. I used some of the movement speed sometime. But I think what was kind of the easiest thing was a flask from Legion. Legion flasks were they're not that expensive, and they were able to give me like another piece of gear worth of intellect. So I would definitely recommend picking some of those up, especially because people probably have those left over, and they're probably very, very cheap right now. The other piece is water walking totem. Potion. I'm a shaman and I had water walking. I could give it to my party, whoever I was with. That was incredibly valuable, especially for the swamp, which had like variable levels of depth of water and a lot of that. So I would definitely pick up some water walking potions for probably not the desert map. You don't really need it for that. But for Nazrim and for Zandular, you definitely could use that. It definitely gives an edge, and it's just annoying to swim. So I would definitely recommend that. Dungeons. Dungeons on the way up to 120. I would queue for them with 2 DPS, and I would be a hybrid. Now, I'm an Elemental Shaman. I can go resto pretty easily. All my gear doubles for that for the most part, especially where I am in the leveling range. Now, I was a hybrid. That is the single best way to get fast queues is if you're tanking is a little bit different because I know the tanking was a little bit harder for some classes versus others, depending, if you know how to do it or not. Healing was super easy to pick up. As a shaman, I was able to queue for healing. We got faster queues, and to be honest with you, the dungeons are very fast and easy. Going up until 120, all those dungeons, mega load is a little bit harder depending on how much trash you pull, but really, being an LA Shaman, I actually, in many dungeons, depending on how the tank was doing, and if they were, able to keep up or not with their HP and their defensives and all that stuff, I was actually running as Elemental. If they weren't taking any damage, usually a boss in, I would switch to Ellie, and we would just pump the dungeon. That just kept the circuit going faster and faster. And I know that's a way that people are using to really clear through dungeons and get a lot of XP pretty quick. Now, I'm not a big dungeon farmer. I don't just do them back to back to back. I get kind of bored and sick of it. But as an Ellie or a Boomkin or whatever it is, you can easily spec as resto, go into that dungeon pretty quickly for your party, bring those DPS with you, get those fast queues, and then you can switch to resto as needed. Now, the other thing is dungeons were able to break up questing. I quested like from Nazrim, like nonstop, and they were like, let's queue for a dungeon. Let's not get totally burned out on just quest. So I think that's another good thing about dungeons and some other things we'll talk about later. But the one bummer was that you don't get default quests for the dungeons. The way you get the quests for the dungeons is you have to clear the entire zone for that dungeon. What do I mean? So Nazarim or Zandular, you have to fully clear that zone, and then at the end of that whole process of doing all of the chapters, you get like 2 quests. And those quests, I'm pretty sure, give Azeroth and maybe a piece of gear. I kind of forget. But those, so it's not really about the quest anymore. It's just about breaking it up and kind of pushing through some stuff and exploring. And also the other thing is you definitely get to access some different pieces of gear. So I was getting gear pieces for Azeroth armor, like helmet, shoulders, or chest pieces that I'd never seen before because they were in zones maybe I hadn't started questing in. So I got to pick different things and try it out. I thought that was really cool and a good way for you to kind of be like, oh, these are these Azeroth traits, these are these Azeroth traits. And there are already some guides on what's best for each class, but I would not hold it. I wouldn't hold it to that. Definitely try stuff out while you're leveling. If you're pushing, optimize yourself as you want, but you're going to be replacing stuff as soon as you hit 120 anyway. So I would just try to feel it out. See, oh, does this have a cool animation? Does this have a cool stacking buff? There was one for Elemental that was like, get stacking mastery, and then on the max stack of it, it actually switches to someone else in your party. And I was like, that's kind of ridiculously cool, especially if someone else could really use for mastery. So, dungeons are a good way to break things up, and I definitely recommend queuing up for some to just kind of change things up. And it could be an easy way to just smash some content with a bunch of people, especially if you're queuing it alone. Now, next is one that you may or may not be able to do, which is partying up. Now, I started BFA, and I was like, I'm just going to go by myself. And then I went into questing, and I picked up my brother, who was starting to quest too. He would have had an incredibly hard time because he's a little bit newer to the game. He would have figured it out, but it's harder to solo than it is to party up. So I definitely recommend, if you see people around you doing the same quests while you're solo, maybe be like, hey, would you want to party up? Because we're clearly on the same quest chain. Most of the way the questing works was very linear. You would go from point A to point B to point C, or it would be hub-based, where it was like, oh, we have a few quests over here. Let's just do those together, and then you can go on your way. So I definitely recommend checking that out and partying up with people. At the beginning of BFA, I was I was an Ellie, and we had a Fire Mage and a Destro Warlock, and we were just trivializing content. We were just crushing it. Now, someone could say that's not fun, but we were also herbing, fishing, archaeology. We were doing a lot of stuff, and I will post those full videos of those really long streams up on my YouTube channel so you could see how we did it. But we definitely did not push. We were definitely taking our time. So the other thing is with multiple people, one person can do it. I was doing it on Ellie. It was like getting groups of mobs for kill quests, because a lot of quests are kill quests. So I would getting them together, AoEing them down. But if you have 2 people, each class kind of has an AoE CC. You do use one, and then you use the other, and then you're good. Like, by then, everything is toast. So that is really, really helpful. So I definitely recommend try to go with somebody. It's makes it a lot more fun, so you can talk and be like, whoa, did you see when? Spoiler. But that's definitely something else. The other thing is, when you're with, the Blizzard really did a good job this X-Pack. And I think in Legion it was probably pretty good too, of making most of the quests able to be, when you do something, it counts for someone else, even when you wouldn't think it would, like collecting certain things or touching certain flowers or healing certain people or blowing poison darts. Like, all that was cross people, or using certain objects. All that was cross your party, so it actually makes it for a very efficient questing if you start partying up. I would say that's why questing is most efficient in parties, and like leveling is most efficient in parties, is because how party-centric Blizzard made this X-Pack. But again, I understand if you can't do this, but I definitely think it's something you should pick up. Okay, now on to number 2. Now, this is my second most pointed tip, and it's actually a little bit of a thing that I don't think people thought about. So there's probably people that are recommending this, but this is something that Garf had told me, and I was like, dude, I just want to quest. I just want to be immersed. And he's like, shut up, Tiqqle. Go in and do this. I was like, all right. And so it's doing Battlegrounds. Guys, okay, between 110 and 120, queue up for Battlegrounds. If you're on the Horde side, the queues were taking 20 minutes. So it was like something that split up your time by as you're questing or you're doing whatever. But we would go in, and our first one that we won, I got 200,000 XP. Now, that is worth 2 I think that bonus on doing a dungeon is 100K. And so it's basically completing 2 dungeons is what 1 Battleground win is. And then killing people in Warsong Altars are giving us 3K. Flag caps were like 12K. Like, it's actually ridiculous. And now, I will say, it depends on what Battleground you get and how long it takes. But if you're able to go in, even with a few people, like, you could get a party of 5 that are questing wherever. You guys go in and you pump that Battleground with a healer, 2 healers, people that are hybrid spec going healer. Like, you could definitely carry Battlegrounds, and you could get up to 200,000 XP per Battleground. And that might only take 10 minutes. That would be shorter even than a dungeon potentially. So I definitely think it's worth. Now, the Horde has long queues. I don't know how long the queues are on the Alliance side, but this is a... If you want to push as fast as you can, and you are just going to quest, I definitely think it's worth it. And even if you lose, you're getting up to 70k, which is 2 quest completions. Now, what I would say is if you really want to push, you could go into the Battleground, get a feeling if you're going to win or lose by like the 50% mark, and then leave if you're going to lose if you really don't want to. But I was getting up to 28k XP for losses at the end, and 50k for wins. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I definitely recommend queuing for Battlegrounds. It splits things up. It also lets you start to feel out your class. So as Ellie in the pre-patch, I was feeling, oh, you know, my damage is a little low, my mobility isn't that great. In the Battlegrounds, I was able to feel out, and like healers were super strong in pre-patch. Now, even in the leveling Battlegrounds, I was like, what happened to Disc Priest? Where'd they go? Like, they're just not as overpowered. A lot of classes, the healing is like slowly ratcheting down. You can feel it. And you can also feel some of the bursts from some of the melee classes going down a little bit. I was not getting pumped as hard. It felt more normal. And that's what we kind of expect as we get to 120 and we start to get better gear. Now, when you go into them, as you can only queue once you're above 110, I believe. So at 111, you can start queuing. And you'll be scaled to, I think it's 119. And so everyone's on the same playing field. So it's actually a great way to level, guys. Definitely recommend this. This is my number 2 tip. Now, my number 1 tip, clearly, everybody's questing, because that's the main way to do XP and all that stuff. But I have a very few important tips. The biggest tip, and I personally did not use it because I wanted to go slow and immerse. But if you want to push, or you want to just be very efficient about your questing, and you hate leveling, well, get the Autopilot Quest add-on. It actually tells you exactly what to do next. It literally gives you a guide on how to go from 110 to 120 the most efficient way. Go to this zone, do this quest, go hand this in, come back, do this, do this. I didn't use the add-on, but I will put a link to in the description of what is there. So absolutely check that out if you want it. Apparently it's extremely efficient. Tiber my buddy, he didn't even level the first day. He was playing PUBG because the servers were down. He started the second day and got an entire day. It's about efficiency. It's about quest hubs, knowing where the best bang for your buck is. So that's what it's all about. Now, the second suggestion I have is follow the main. This is if you're not doing that add-on. If you're just going by yourself, I would say follow the main chapters of the quest. Just follow them through each of the zones. It kind of guides you through the main hubs, the main quests, the main everything. Now, there are side quests and side hubs that you might run across. Feel free to do them if you want. But it won't necessarily lead you towards the end of the chapters, and you could leave you after doing some of those side hubs and bonus objectives, like, where do I go next? And so that's following the main chapters is just a pretty linear way to get through zones, and it bangs you through all the big quest hubs. Getting 3 to 4 to 5 quests at a time. Now, the side hubs do have potential bonus objectives if you start doing those quests that you may not know about, because I noticed that a lot of bonus objectives weren't visible on the map, or at least I didn't see them. So that's definitely something you want to think about, because if you do go to the side hubs, you might find a bonus objective, all that stuff. Now, another huge recommendation. Now, this is something that I don't think people will... it doesn't make sense, but it's kind of the way I found it, was leave the war campaign to 120. It's not because you should get that gear and all that stuff later at 120. It's just because it's not really an efficient way of questing. And if you want to go check it out and you're not pushing quests, you're not trying to push to 120, that's fine. But the war campaign to me was something that was like, okay, go and open up all the Alliance zones, which are like 3 quests per zone, which is not a great, and you're moving around a lot, and there's a lot to see, a lot to soak in. I would save all that experience for 120. And when I say experience, I almost mean game experience, because that's stuff that you're gonna have to do later. It's gonna be in Alliance zones. And the big thing about being in Alliance zones is all the mobs in Alliance zones, they don't scale to your level. They scale to 120. So those guys are going to be really hard to fight. So that's something I definitely think I would recommend leave it to 120. The other piece is, a few quests here and there. And you unlock like island campaigns. You do this and you do that. So that's definitely something I would leave on the way out. Now, in terms of quests that are over near that stuff, now there is a quest at 115, 116 for your instance that's in your city. Now, for me, it was Motherlode, so I would definitely pick that up if you're going to be queuing for dungeons after 115. It was a good, bump of XP and gear, so that's good. The other thing I would recommend is when you're questing, just take a breath and enjoy the new stuff. If you're pushing, go ahead push. But this is a message for all you guys that are kind of going through it and kind of like, I don't know if I like leveling. and like, I'm not gonna like be raiding mythics immediately, or like pushing more alts for alt runs, not Sid. But I would say definitely kind of enjoy the experience. This is something that Blizzard, this is a new expansion. The WoW has been out for 15 years or whatever, 13 years, 18 years, whatever it is. This is new stuff. This is still new stuff. It's going to become old stuff very quick. We're going to do circles in Zandular. So I would definitely say enjoy the questing experience, enjoy the zone experience, feel it out, all that stuff. If you are going to take it slow, just kind of like look around. You'll see me in some of my videos and the background drop to this video. I'm just kind of like, that's pretty cool back there. This is like, you can see the temple from over here. You can see these mountains. It's pretty cool. And the last thing I'll say is do not get burned out right away, guys. This is going to be a long time of this stuff. We have 8.1 coming. We're only a few days in. Now, definitely focus on what you want to be doing in the X-Pack. I went to inscription. I started doing professions with that right away, picking up the skills, started selling cards, all that stuff. So I kind of have a plan. Just kind of figure it out. Like, you're going to hit 120. What are some of the things you want to do? And I'll make a separate video about that. Like, do I want to just explore Iron Expeditions? Do I want to do dungeons? Do I want to do heroics? Do I want to do PvP? What do I want to do? Because the PvP season's not even out yet, so no arenas really. So there's a few things, you know, you don't want to get there and be like, wow, I just grinded for what? What's next? And we'll create a what's next video, and let me know in the comments below, guys, what you want me to make a video about and talk about. If there's other things that you want to know more about, what are my plans? What are the Island Expeditions going to give? What are the heroics going to give? What is this, that, the other thing? Let me know in the comments below, guys, and let me know what you're most excited about, because this is super excited. Let me know below what you think about BFA, and on the way out the door, guys, hit that like button, and we'll see you in the next video. Enjoy BFA, guys. Use these tips, get to 120, and we'll see you there. Have a good one.